Hello everybody, this is Mark Werber, the Director of Association Management Software. I'm joined today by Diane Clem from the AMS Support Department. Hey Diane.
Hi everyone.
Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to cover Education Part 2, where we're going to be focusing on registrations and reporting. As always, it takes a village to pull off these webinars, so we'd like to take a moment to say thanks to the team working behind the scenes.
And today we're bringing you our webinar on Magic version 10.1.07. If you have not upgraded to 10.1.07, please give us a call and schedule your free upgrade as soon as possible. We want you to enjoy all the benefits of the latest and greatest version of Magic.
Let's jump into today's agenda. Today is Education Part 2. We're going to briefly review Education Part 1, then we're going to go into Magic and go through the registration process. Then we'll cover cancellations as well. Then we're going to go to Internet Member Services and show the agent perspective for registrations and cancellations. Then at the end, we're going to take a few moments to cover some of the more popular reports. So a review of Education Part 1. Last month, we covered how courses and classes work together. Then in Magic, we went through the Getting Started wizard to create instructors, courses, creating charge codes, and creating classes. If you want more information about how to perform any of these steps, please go to the Rapattoni corporate website, navigate to our webinar and training videos section, and review the Education Part 1 webinar in its entirety.
All right, well let's get down to business. Let's look at registrations in Magic. From Magic, you're going to click on Managers, Education, and Class Registration Form. Here we've already selected our class or created our class, Orientation 2013. So we're going to use our F9 key to move down into the registration portion of the form. From this point, we can either use our Create button in our upper tool ribbon bar up at the top of Magic, or we can use Control E to create a brand new registration. When you tab off the class ID, you'll be presented the opportunity to enter in your batch information. Remember, you created a batch for your class. And then you'll be taken down into the registrant portion of the form. Here you have two options. If you're registering someone who is not a member in your association, you're offering this class to the public, you can type in their information freeform here. Type in their name and their address information. It won't create a member record in Magic, but it will allow you to create a registration for a public person. What we're going to do here is zoom into the member number field and select an existing member in our database. Here we have selected Thomas Adams, and you see Magic has pulled in his preferred mailing address by default, and that's all in red. If you want to change that information, you're going to zoom into the Mail To field, where you'll see three options. You can select his home address, his office address, or you can add a supplemental address. If you select the supplemental address, you can type information in there freeform, just as if it was a public member, just like we did there. And this address information that you type into the supplemental area of the registration form will not update your member's member record. It will only affect this registration. It won't change anything about the member record in Magic. Now let's look at the registration information. By default, Magic puts the registration status in R status, R for registered, and then you're going to tab down to the postmark date. The postmark date is very important because it's going to determine how much that member is charged for the class if there's a fee involved. Usually there's a before and after deadline fee, and they differ accordingly, so you want to make sure that postmark date is correct. Magic defaults to yes, the member did attend, and it also will give you an opportunity to notate how many classes the member attended or was absent for if you have different times allotted for this particular class. Magic gives the member a passing grade by default. These things can be changed after the class is passed and you see how that member did in the class. You have an opportunity to type a freeform comment in the comment field. And then you can see there are other date fields available to you, such as confirmation letter, tickets printed, pass and fail. These are fields you can enter in manually if you send these items out manually, or you can allow our merge programs to update them automatically if you use the merge program to send out these notifications. To the right, you'll see the Modify Charges button. That allows you to modify what you're going to charge that member for his class registration. You can either change the amount of the rate code that is assigned to that member by default, or you can zoom in and select a completely different rate if you'd like. You can escape to save that information. Also, at the very bottom of the registration form, you'll see the NAR transmittal pushed to CDB fields. Those are automatically populated by data exchange if this is an ethics course and it qualifies for education transmittal. When that information gets pushed to NERDS, then those fields are updated for you so you can go back and look and see when that record was pushed. That was a lot of information there.
Okay, so escape to save.
Right? And then there is actually a much easier way to register a member for a class, but we did want to cover all those fields so you understood exactly what options are available to you. Now we're going to create a registration. We're going to show you exactly how quick it can be. So don't blink or you'll miss it. We're going to zoom into the member number field. First we'll tab down to the member number field, select a member, and then we're going to escape to save. That's it. That member is registered for a class. It can be that easy if you allow Magic to use all the defaults that are set up for that member based on their member type.
Let's review. We went into a registration in Magic. Through the class registration, you can register members or non-members. That would be agents that exist within your membership database, and non-members are records that do not exist within your membership database. A few key points about the registration process is the Mail To section. You can specify home, office, or a supplemental address. If you change the address using the supplemental address, it only affects this registration or communications with the member related to this class. It will not affect their main membership record. Remember to enter a postmark date because that defines how the member is charged, the before or deadline price. If this class qualifies for ethics and you want to push it to CDB or the central database, there will be a place that will log the date and time that that record was sent to NAR for qualification of ethics. And then the last field was modify charges. The system will always know the member and non-member rate. However, you can always overwrite that rate or that dollar amount. This class was free, so there was no need to enter a dollar amount.
Next, we're going to look at how to cancel registration from Magic. Going back to Magic and already in the class registration form, we're going to select the registration that we just created. And we're simply going to click on the status field and change it from R to C. Magic will ask us if we're sure. We'll tell Magic yes. And that class will be canceled. It's as simple as that. If there was money involved in that registration, the member would be prompted how they want to deal with that cost that they paid for, and we'll cover that in our review.
That was really easy. Let's do another one.
Yeah, let's do another one in case you missed that first one. So we're going to zoom into the registration record, change the R to C, escape, tell Magic we're sure, and it's done.
Well, let's review. To cancel a registration in Magic, all you need to do is change the status from R to C, from registered to canceled. That's it. Now, there was no money involved in this class registration, but if there was, the software would actually create an offsetting invoice for the amount of the class. So what do you do with the credit that's created? Well, if the class was unpaid, there will be a debit and a credit of equal dollar amounts. You'll need to apply them against each other. If the agent had paid for the class via cash or check, then they'll have a credit on their account. The credit can be applied to another class, or you can refund that money, or you can apply it to another outstanding invoice in the future. And if the agent paid by credit card, when you go to cancel, you'll actually be prompted at that moment to issue a credit back on their credit card.
And a quick word about the waiting list in Magic. If you have more people registering for a class than the spaces allowed are, then you can place those members on a waiting list. When space becomes available due to a member canceling their registration, you do have to manually take someone off the waiting list and register them for the class. That allows you to decide who has priority and who should actually come off that waiting list first.
Now that we've shown you how to register through Magic, we're going to show you how the agent registers online through Internet Member Services. The way that would work is the agent would navigate to the association's website, where they would either log on to Internet Member Services or navigate to the association calendar, where they could find the education calendar. Now, I've already logged on to Internet Member Services and I've clicked on the education calendar link, which will bring me up all the classes that have been configured to allow for online registration. The education calendar sorts by month, so here's August classes and September classes. You'll note that the GRI class is in red because red indicates classes that this person is already registered for. So I want to register for the orientation class, the same one that we were just looking at in Magic. So I'll click on the hyperlink, which will bring me up to the class detailed information. The class description, the format of the class, the date, and the amount of the class is displayed here, as well as how many spaces are left for registration, the date and time, the instructor, a link to the location, and even a detailed description. Now, this is a brand new feature that's only available in version 10.1.7, where you can now enter a detailed description right on the class detailed information page. So this is the class I want to register for. In the lower left corner, you'll see Proceed to Registration, where I'll receive one more confirmation. Just like the registration within Magic, the agent has the ability to change their address for this registration only. It will also confirm the email address on record, and they can change their email address here if they want the confirmation sent somewhere else. I'm going to add to my cart. Now the class is sitting in my registration cart. From here, I can delete it if I change my mind, go and register for more, or register now. Now this class is free. If it wasn't free, I would be prompted to actually pay now. So there was no payment because the class is free. However, the software did create a receipt confirmation, and Carol Barker did receive an email confirmation. That was it. It's that easy. Let's review.
Registering online is really simple for your members. They simply go to your association website and navigate to the class calendar. They select the class they're interested in, and when they select that class, they can see detailed information displayed about that class. Once they decide this is the class they want, they can proceed to registration, confirm their personal information, and even take a look at a class description, which is brand new in Magic 10.1.07. They can click on Add to Cart, and they can either check out or they can register for more. Very simple.
Well, we registered online. Let's see how to cancel online. Again, this is from the agent's perspective. So if the agent decides that they cannot attend this course or this class that they've signed up for, they can simply go back to the education calendar and locate the class that they're currently registered for. In this case, I'm registered for this orientation class. You'll notice that the software indicates that I'm already registered for this class, but there's a brand new link over on the right side that says registration cancellation. If I click registration cancellation, I'll receive a confirmation. Am I sure this is what I want to do? I'll also, again, receive an email notification. Click Submit Cancellation. And that is it. I have now been canceled for this class. Let's review.
Canceling a registration online is just as easy as registering. Simply locate the class, go to Class Details, and select Cancel Registration. Please note that a registration that's been created in Magic by one of your staff cannot be canceled by a member online. They can only cancel the classes they registered for online. Now, what happens with the money? Since classes are paid for by credit card online, the refund is automatically credited back to the member's credit card, same way it happened to begin with.
Let's look at some of the supporting reports that we use in the education module.
In Magic, we're going to go from Managers to Education to Reports, and first we're going to look at the class sign-in sheet. You'll select your criteria accordingly. Select the appropriate class ID, in this case Orientation 2013. You can elect to identify your member using their license number, their member number, their MLS, or their NERDS ID. You can select meeting date if that's appropriate, and also enter blank lines at the end of the sign-in sheet in case you have drop-in people. Enter a brief report title at the bottom, and you can also elect to check any of these three boxes to include the address, their home address, their email address, or even to include the waiting list in priority order. In this case, we're just going to create the report, just as it is, without including that information.
This is an example of the sign-in sheet. You'll notice from the top, it has my custom title, the class name, the meeting date. The details of the sign-in sheet show the member number, we specified that, the attendee's name, the names are sorted in alphabetical order, and a place for them to actually sign in or put their signature. We also included a bunch of blank lines at the end for those attendees that didn't sign up in advance so that there's room for them to sign the sign-in sheet as well.
The next report we're going to look at is the education roster. So we're going to go from reports to class roster. And then again, we can elect specific criteria such as the class ID. And then once we've selected that class ID, we can look to the right to decide what kind of contact information we want to include or not include on that roster. And then we can go down to the bottom of the form and give that roster a title.
Let's look at an example of that. The class roster displays the detailed information about all the registrants. Notice at the top that we've given it a custom title. Here's the class name, and then here's all the registrants with all of their preferred contact information like phone numbers, email addresses, and personal addresses.
And finally, we're going to show you one more report, which is the registration information report. Going from education to reports to class registration report. Again, we're going to select our criteria, going first to the class ID, and then going through and we can basically tab through this without entering much more. It defaults to the correct information. You don't have to worry about the dates because you've selected your class ID. So we're going to create that report and show you all the information that that'll provide you.
The class registration report shows all the details about the registrants. For example, their registration ID, of course their name sorted in alphabetical order, their member number, their registration status, how many tickets they purchased, the amount of money that they were charged, if they were charged money, how much is still due, and if they paid, the date that they paid, if they used education card credits, whether they attended or not, their grade or their score. At the end of the registration report, there's a total. So this class, we had 20 registrants for a total revenue of $12.
Let's review.
Okay, let's take a review.
We looked at several reports in Magic, first being the sign-in sheet. We also looked at the roster and saw that you can decide what information you want to include to do with your class registrants. We looked at the class registration report, which includes the list of registrants, their status, the amount they were charged or still have due to pay, and we could actually see a total revenue generated for that class. Also available in Magic for education are the education transcript, which you can view the individual's education history by running that report. Also, the education revenue report allows you to look at summarized statistics, including the total revenue generated. Also, there are many, many more, so feel free to explore.
Thank you, Diane. Let's summarize what we covered today. First, we went into Magic and we went through the registration process. We defined all the fields and showed you how easy it is to register. Then we even covered how to cancel a registration, which is even easier. and we talked about how the waitlist works. Then we showed, then we showed the user experience through Internet Member Services. This is where the agent goes online and does all the work themselves. So we showed how an agent would go and register for classes as well as cancel their own classes. And finally, we covered some of the most common reports used in the education module. My favorites are the sign-in sheet, the class roster, and the registration report. That concludes today's webinar on education registration and reporting. Do we have any questions from our audience today?
Well, here's a question here. What happens if they did not pay online and they cancel online? Interesting question. When a member registers for a class online, they will have to pay for it if there's a charge associated with the class. So that scenario usually, it will never happen. They'll have to pay online and then they'll be able to cancel online. Now if they've called your association and registered and paid you at the association, they won't be able to cancel that registration online. Only a class that they registered for online will they be able to cancel online. So you won't really ever come up against that scenario.
Good question. Is there an education report that lists class attendance by location? That's a good question, but the way when you set up a class, you only can specify one location for the class. So I'm wondering how you're setting that up. Now, if there's multiple meetings at different locations, then you can run the education report by meeting date. So that might actually resolve the same issue. Looks like we don't have any other questions, Diane.
All right. And as usual, if you have additional questions you think of later, you can send an email to webinars@rapattoni.com and we will get back to you and answer those questions for you. Okay, Mark, what's up? What's the Rapattoni 411?
The 411 is our next Magic webinar will be held on October 23rd. In this webinar, we're going to do a new features review. We're going to cover the many new and exciting features made into Magic over the last year. There's actually quite a few. You may not be aware of them, so we're going to show you all the new features that we've rolled out to membership, the central database, education, events, committees, and even Internet Member Services. I hope you'll have time to join.
As usual, you can view past and future webinars and register for upcoming webinars by visiting our website at www.rapattoni.com. Click on Support, Magic, Webinars and Training Videos, and you can see a complete library of all of our past webinars. You can also register for upcoming webinars. Also, take advantage of our Magic resource articles on the same website.
Thank you once again for your participation, and we'll see you in October.
Thanks, everyone.